This week's channeled message from the angels is one we really need to hear, something we do not want to miss, because it is telling us really what this great shift is based on and the action we need to take to make sure it's happening for us, for each of us. So welcome back to my channel, you guys. I'm so glad you are here. So, and thank you for those of you who are new. Welcome. My name is Ann Tucker. I'm a trance channel. I channel from the angelic realm. I do that by going into a deep meditative state or trance, and from there I raise my awareness up as high as I can go. I connect at the angelic realm, and then messages, information, and healing come through, and I share it here with you guys on YouTube. And my format is I will give you a quick summary of the message, then I will share the original channeling, which I did earlier today, and then after that I will break it down and we can talk through to get more meaning out of what they are saying. There's always layers and layers when the angels are talking. So like I said, I'm so glad you are here, because there's a lot going on with this message. It's beautifully clear, which I'm so grateful for, because I feel like this is one of the more important ones we've received when it comes to understanding. Really, we hear all the time about unity consciousness, and we hear about, we're going through the shift, and there's so much confusion about what that really means. Here they have boiled it down in a way that I feel like, even though they're talking about things that are non-physical, it's still energy. To me, it's clearer than ever. So before we dive into it, I just want a quick reminder for those of you who are in my monthly peace bathing healing program, to just a reminder that we have our session this Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific. So we do it once a month. Those of you who, if you do not yet have a regular healing program of your own, you are absolutely welcome to join us. Peace bathing is a gorgeous monthly session with the angels that helps us to keep pace with the shift in the frequency. It's helping us to move with the energies that are coming to the planet right now, helping us to move through the shift in consciousness. So they're beautiful sessions, usually about an hour, and then we chat afterwards. So you can find out more on my website, which is antucker.com/peace-bathing. This PEACE, peace bathing. So I'll put the link down in the description box as well. So the summary of the message, it's really about understanding that we are generating a new vibration from inside of us. They've told us that we sort of have reached the tipping point, that there's enough of us that are embracing, and by embracing they mean being willing to leave the old reality behind. And they've said that there's a secondary, like a higher vibration us that's inside of us, that aspect of us won't be fully birthed until the flash of light comes, but it is starting to wake up, right? The egg is beginning to crack, and this higher vibration us is coming up. And it isn't like we're going to become a different person. It's still us. It's just, imagine, like, you can be a different person on your best day, on your worst day. You can have, like, on your best day, like, nothing phases you, and you roll with the punches, and you see everything from, in its best way. And on your worst day, like, everything bugs you, and you're irritable, but you're still you. It's just you in two different variations of expression. So imagine if this right now is your range of, like, high, high, low, low. This other self that's coming up bumps it up. So you have this new high and a new low. So this is kind of the higher octave that's coming forward. It's still you, still same memories, still same everything you've learned, all of that. You keep all that. It's just that all of a sudden it's like you sing the same song but in a new octave. So that is coming. But already there's these ripples, these sounds that are coming out, that are starting to change the nature of reality already, which is so cool. So what they're saying, though, is that the only way we can really bring it home, the way that we can make sure that we are the ones that are there first, and somebody's got to be the way showers, you guys. There has to be those of us, those of you who are the light workers, and by light worker I mean those who have gone through their awakening and are ready to help others, that are able to jump first, to move to the higher state first, and then turn around and help others come too. And that is by design. Like, this is how we're meant to do it. So it's not going to be all at once. It's going to be the people who go first, and then they turn around and help the rest. So how do we do that? How do we get to do, the hardest thing is going to be the first ones, right? Because it's new ground. It's not broken yet. New reality doesn't exist yet. So they say the key is that we have to learn to fully express our truth. And that, they say the key to doing that is trust. So I feel like this message breaks it down. This is why I say this is a message we cannot afford to miss, because this makes it clearer for those of you who are going to be the way showers. This message makes it clearer than anything else I've seen. So yeah, so I'm very, very excited to share with you. Yeah, I feel like this is a really, really important one. So, all right, if you want to get settled, get calm, and I will go ahead and share the message. Blessings, we begin. We are speaking to you now at the forefront of your conception of what is reality. We are speaking on the topic of some concern, which is the foreground, the advancement of placings wherein the energy is shifting. You shall forego some timings that you have counted upon. There shall not be what was, and there shall be things gone missing. There shall be an energetic turmoil which embraces yourselves as a method and a means by which you are orchestrating your new beginning. The opening of the doorway has come, and the time embraces you now. The new beginnings have sprung from within you. You are an orchestration of light that speaks to the now moment, that embraces yourselves and embraces the light you are becoming. This enchanting display cannot falter, cannot fall down. As the chaotic rumblings of this earth, of this environment, of the changing surroundings seems to dull and nullify your own growth, beckon now to the horizon and see yourselves as you are and as you have come to be known by us, the truth sayers, the ones whose souls have begun to speak their truth. This truth echoes where you are now. It speaks in the rumblings of a higher dimension. It echoes its own voice, the truth of you now. It becomes and becomes and becomes itself. In this echoing chamber, it facilitates the growth that is happening beneath the surface of all that it is in existence. It is an underlayment, a thickening quicksand within which that which sinks will be destroyed, and that which rises will be genteeled in a quality of kinship with the truth of who you are now. We orchestrate ourselves to embrace the now, to echo who you are, to allow this reverberation to be amplified through the truth of our own souls. And what we are now has shifted to facilitate your own awakenings of these potentials. We have now stretched our own incarnatings to become the chamber of your own voices, as that which stirs in your soul is awakening and finds the precipitating unfolding begun. We shall focus now upon what is shared between yourselves, what has begun and is concentrated into the awarenesses of the many who shall rise into unity and togetherhood. We shall amplify that which is shared, which is originating from within the time period of now, which has only just begun. We shall search and justify that which shall become the new reality from amongst yourselves. This is our role, our addition, the part we play. It is to fortify that which is shared, to amplify that which has begun and which is beginning, and which has left behind that which is familiar. We shall stretch across the divide between your souls, and stretch to renew and embrace those subtle shapes and tissues which just now begin to bridge across the divide of your own separation. And these we shall fortify and strum like the strings of an instrument to connect you to one another, to amplify the great good tidings of your new tomorrow. We shall find those whispers of your own consciousness which have begun to percolate within the shared collective, and we shall unify and amplify togetherhood. All that you are has begun to sing a song of I amness, and within this shared perception of I am willing to let go, and I shall stretch to become who I am, there is a unity focus. For within separation, there can become a unified field, not like what you have felt before. It is a celebration of your kinship with one another within the conceptual framework of self alone. It is as if within your own soul there is a concentration of your own light that emanates its own qualities to the degree that they can be shared. And within that sharing, there is a unity concept which seeks another that also shares to the same degree. These two forces of connection share and unify along the ridges of perception which illuminate one another in shared reality. It is as if through the concentration of your own light you illuminate another, and that other illuminates yourself. Thus, it is only through the participation, the full orchestration of your truth, which is allowed to shine freely, that you may join the collective. The barriers between one another melt down in surrender, for there can be no need for separation when self is embodying truth. For truth shines directionally all at once. Truth shares itself without reserve. Truth echoes its own voice. The emanation point of truth is invariable. It cannot be allowed to suffer the imposition of another's light. It does, however, receive the perception of divinity which shines from another. It is through the willingness to be seen that unity is begun. Through the growth of trust in one another's soul and kinship, through the allowing of your own spectacle to be shared open and freely. This is the actioning point upon which you may focus. This is the place your soul must stretch itself for your voice to be heard in its completion, to be allowed to shine, to stretch past the umbrellas of your own protection, to reach into the folds of another's vision, and to demand the place of your own belonging there, to be seen in the fullness, in the rainbow of your own expression, not in the method by which your own expression overtakes, but in the understanding that two may shine simultaneously, and it generates more light to be shared between you. There is a buffering zone between your light and that of another, a place within which your own space is claimed. your own reverence, your own spaciousness, your own truth is allowed, but only. This spaciousness of your own evolution cannot be combined with another's. In the unity field of consciousness, these illuminated bundles of concentrated light fixate upon their own expression, and in so doing, they combine with others who are equally fixated, as if a magnetic pole unifies between you. At the border between one another's light, the perception of illumination, the spark of unity is begun, as if the connective tissues between one soul's light and another forms the bond of a reality to be shared. This connective tissue is built on trust. Trust is the way shower, the new wave form of reality, trust. It is upon this that all things are predicated. Thus, you may feel within your own field where trust is lacking, where you may have harbored old resentments or disallowances, where you have not yet yielded to the perception of others. There are no forms within your soul that do not bear witness. There are no parts of you that are not hallowed. This reality must come to your own willingness and perception so that unity can begin. We thank you. All right, so beautiful as always, right? The way they speak, I never get tired of it. Like, it always amazes me, the eloquence, right? How poetic they are. Every time, I love it. And of course, the frequencies that come through when they're speaking to us, it's just like, that's why I say, like, even if when you listen, if you just let it flow over you, you just receive the energies, and you can always go back and listen to it again, or, get the details when we talk through it. But letting those frequencies, opening your heart, letting those frequencies in, because that is what's happening when we're channeling. I don't know, I mentioned this several times before, but in case you hadn't heard it, that when I first started working with the angels, they took about 4 months where they worked on my vocal cords specifically to make sure that when they were coming through, they could communicate frequencies for us. There was like about a 4-month period where I could barely speak, and luckily they explained what was going on. But it's wonderful to just open up during that channeling and just let that flow through you. Anything that resonates, anything that it's always free will, right? Whatever you are willing to accept. So, all right. So let's go ahead and break down the message. So they start out, they say, blessings we are within. We are speaking to you now at the forefront of your conception of what is reality. We are speaking on the topic of some concern, which is the foreground, the advancement of placings wherein the energy is shifting. So here, they always give us a good preview in the beginning about what the message is about. And so they're talking about the forefront of your conception of what is reality. So this is talking about how do we perceive reality? What are we thinking of it? And I think this is very important because they've talked to us a lot in the other messages about the need to see our reality with beginner's mind, like a child, with awe, like to be open to perceiving what we haven't seen before. Because most of the time when we cruise through life, we pattern match and we search our reality for things that we expect to see. And that's what we see. And there could be new things that are happening that are right in front of our face, but because we don't have a pattern that matches them, we literally don't see them. And I know it's hard to believe it, but think about this. Have you ever bought and made a big purchase, such as a pair of shoes you loved, or a new car, or something that was like you bought it and you were pretty psyched about your purchase? After you buy it and you're walking around or driving around, you will notice all of a sudden you start to see those shoes or that car, whatever it is, you start to see them all over the place. Whereas before you never saw them, right? Like only once in a while. Once you've sort of invested in that thing, whatever it is, all of a sudden you see them everywhere. And that isn't because all of a sudden they're showing up. It's because your filter, your perception has shifted. And it is that idea that we pattern match. We now have this sort of in the front of our field. So when we look out in the world, all of a sudden we see it. So this is the problem when we are trying to see a new reality, when we're trying to see something that does not yet exist because it doesn't pattern match with anything. And so the only way to get to it is and to perceive the shift that's actually happening around us right now is to have beginner's mind, to try to imagine what it must be like as a new infant coming into the world, seeing everything's new. Or if you've ever traveled and gone somewhere, like I remember back in my 20s, I did the backpack around Europe thing. And I went to Morocco, and I was only there for a couple weeks, but it felt like a lifetime because everything was so, it was like one of the most different places I've been, like culturally different. The whole experience was so different that it's like time slowed down. And I felt like I saw more because I just had to be so much more conscious because things didn't work the way I was used to. So I had to really pay attention. So to me, that's my reference point when I think about this, is that I got to slow down and I got to pay attention and I got to try to be open to seeing things. Take moments during the day when you just open up to perceive and don't just go on automatic pilot. Notice when I'm on automatic pilot and recognize those are moments when I'm not open to perceiving the new reality. So that's the idea here. What is our conception of reality? And that reality is changing. We have to begin to be open to that. So they are speaking, they say, on the topic of some concern, which is in the foreground, the advancement of placings wherein the energy is shifting. So, and this is, as we know it, we are in the polycrisis where it seems like more and more and more, we're just getting numb to it. You know, the crazy flooding, which the angels have warned us about again and again and again. And they specifically said it would be flooding through rain. They also said that, yes, there will be some big waves coming, but they talked about flooding through rain. And boy, is that happening now. And they've been talking about that since 2020. And it is, I am very sorry to say, happening all over the US and probably elsewhere. I don't honestly pay a lot of attention to the news, so I can't give you the full update. But I can tell you that there is some horrific flooding happening in the US right now. And it's through crazy storms. So the energy is shifting. They go on in the next paragraph. They say, you shall forego some timings that you've counted upon. There shall not be what was, and there shall be things gone missing. There shall be an energetic turmoil which embraces yourselves as a method and a means by which you are orchestrating your new beginning. So I like that they're acknowledging here, like, yeah, it is traumatic right now, what's going on in our world. It's traumatic even to listen or to hear about what's happening. The picture it forms in your mind is really, it's heartbreaking, it's scary. A lot of the stuff that's going on in the world is very emotionally upsetting. And they acknowledge that here, and they say, yeah, there's outcomes that we couldn't have counted on. There's things that we did never perceive, and there may be things maybe there's loss in your own life, because these are sort of the bigger stage. There's stuff going on, but what about you personally? Like, is your life going through a lot of change right now? And is there things that you're having to leave behind, or things that you're wanting to leave behind? Things gone missing, right? And they said, okay, there's an energetic turmoil, but they say that it is embracing yourself. The energetic turmoil is embracing yourself. So I love that they say, okay, yeah, it seems like it's something that's scary, something that's bad, but what if we understand it? What if we see the chaos as something that is embracing us? That the chaos is here to help us. And they say, as a method and a means by which you are orchestrating your new beginning. So everything serves a purpose. Everything that we're going through, all the change that's happening, it is all here to embrace us, right? To help us, to move us to take off all of what was, everything we need to shed, everything we have to let go of. The chaos is helping us. All right, next paragraph. The opening of the doorway has come, and the time embraces you now. The new beginning has sprung from within you. You are an orchestration of light that speaks to the now moment, that embraces yourselves and embraces the light you are becoming. This enchanting display cannot falter, cannot fall down. So this is the good news. This is like yay, because they are saying that the opening of the doorway has come and the time embraces you now. They're basically saying, and they started saying this a couple months ago, was the first time they came through and said, like, hey, you've kind of reached the tipping point. And they said that we've come along faster and further than we expected. So like, we're getting a really good report card from the angels. They're telling us like, hey, we're crushing it. We're doing really, really well in this whole shift of consciousness thing, which is fantastic, right? It's great news. news. And they're saying the new beginning has sprung from within you. So we are well on our way. And they say you are an orchestration of light that speaks to the now moment, that embraces yourselves and embraces the light you are becoming. So this enchanting display cannot falter. Cannot fall down. In other words, it's at this point it's a given, like it's happening. This shift in consciousness is it cannot falter. It's going to happen. So this is like, you can't get better news, right? This is really, really good. It's inevitable. We're already on the path. So very, very cool and encouraging paragraph. Next paragraph. As the chaotic rumblings of this earth, of this environment, of the changing surroundings seems to dull and nullify your own growth, beckon now to the horizon and see yourselves as you are, and as you have come to be known to us, the truth sayers, the ones whose souls have begun to speak their truth. So here we go. This is where we start to get into the depth of it. So, and I love here that they are saying, okay, all of this stuff going on in the world may not bring out the best in us. Like when we see terrible things happening, when terrible things happen in our own lives, it can be really hard for us to rise to our spiritual nature, right? That we can sometimes get lost in the weeds of our humanity. And we can be in the fear, we can be in the grief, we can be in all the stuff. And not that grief isn't spiritual, because it is very spiritual, but the fear is not. The fear is what they're talking about. So the chaotic rumblings, all the changes in the world that we can, as we're going through them, they can seem to dull and nullify our own growth. So we may get to a place where we're just feeling like, oh my gosh, I am not feeling like I'm doing my part here. I may feel like we've lost our path. We may feel like we've gotten, really, really angry on a particular day or resentful or whatever it is. And we may feel like we're falling behind, and they say, no, that's not the case, that we are actually doing great. They say beckon now to the horizon. When that happens, when you feel yourself sort of disconnecting from the state you want to be in, look to the horizon, see yourselves as you actually are. That you have come to be known to the angels, right, as the truth sayers, the ones whose souls have begun to speak their truth. This is the quality that makes you the way shower. This is what it is to be the light worker at this time and place. It is to be the ones who have begun to speak their truth. And I think this is so important because I don't hear this being said out there. And I think this message is just making it so much clearer what it is we have to do and where it is we have to focus as we're trying to make this shift internally. So, okay, to be a truth sayer. They go on, they explain more. So we'll go into it as they go. Next paragraph. This truth echoes where you are now. It speaks in the rumblings of a higher dimension. It echoes its own voice, the truth of you now. It becomes and becomes and becomes itself. And this echoing chamber, it facilitates the growth that is happening beneath the surface of all that is in existence. So here we're going to get into some kind of metaphysical concepts or metaphysical understanding of like, how is it that the shift is coming about? And how is it, like, what are the energetic forces that are moving and from us altering the planet? And understanding as we talk about this, like this big shift in consciousness, it starts with the earth herself as a soul. She is a soul, just like we are. She just happens to be bigger, but she is going through her own growth process. Like she is the one that is trying to shift. But when we are embodied, we become, as an embodiment, we are like the neurons of the earth. We are like her thoughts. So as we speak our truth, as we are holding that vibration, it's also her holding that vibration. So our evolution is her evolution. So this truth echoes where you are now. It speaks in the rumblings of a higher dimension. So this is that beginning, the cracking of that higher expression inside of us, right? And it's starting the rumblings, I love that, of this new dimension just starting to come out, right? And it echoes this rumbling, this truth that is of the fullness of who you are. It echoes its own voice, right? The truth of you now. So in other words, it's not your karma. It's not everything you've done, said in the past. It's not all the stuff, not all the baggage that keeps us locked in 3D. It's living in the moment. It's right now. And it's echoing this truth, right? Which is like everything you've learned to get to this place. It starts there. That's why the now piece is so important, because if we start back there, we're at a lower vibration. We're before we learned all the stuff we got to get to here. We want to start with the best vibration we can muster, which is where we are now, which is everything we've learned up until now. So that it becomes itself. It echoes its own voice. The truth of you now. It becomes and becomes and becomes itself. So I was getting visuals as they were speaking. It's hard for me to follow the messages when I'm channeling, but they frequently will show me a second track, which is images, because I can retain those. Because it's like I'm really super far in my right brain, and language just doesn't stick that well, but visuals do. So they give me this second track of images. And when they were saying this part, it becomes and becomes and becomes itself. What I saw was like dropping a pebble in water, and then the rings and the rings and the rings. It's this idea of it becomes that the truth, that like this truth of who we really are, as we're starting to express it. It's like it builds and it builds and it builds, and it starts to. It's not like when you say it once, it doesn't just come out and die. It has a life of its own. It echoes. It keeps going. It keeps going. It ripples out. And they say this echoing chamber, it facilitates the growth that is happening beneath the surface of all that is in existence. So as in every single moment, and you don't have to do it all the time, you may feel in any one day that some of the time you're like feeling your truth, and feeling your truth is going to feel like no resistance. That's what they're talking about here. When you feel like you are not in resistance to who you are in any way, when you're just being you and you're not in resistance to your life, you're not in resistance to the earth, you're not in resistance to who you are, to any of your experiences, and that state of being is going to be something that you are going to be able to embody some of the time. And that's fantastic. Like eventually we're going to get there to the place where we can embody it all of the time. But based on what they're saying, we can do this now some of the time. And each time we do it, it's like we are sending out that ripple. It's like a super loud voice. Like it is a much brighter, stronger vibration than what we vibrate at 3D. It is, and I actually heard this once. It was like, this was a really cool thing where science and spirituality meet, where somebody was hooked up. You know, they do these things where they like monitor your brain waves, and they had like electrodes all over the person, and they were having them talk about something, and they were measuring emotion or measuring frequency as this person was communicating. And randomly, as this person, and they did this for multiple different people, randomly at strange points in what the person was saying, there would be this huge spike of frequency. And they were like, okay, what caused that? It wasn't a specific, it didn't seem like there was no matching between emotions. Like sometimes it would be a happy thought or an angry thought or whatever it was, right? And it would be like, well, why? What's causing these incredibly high frequencies? And they finally, through analyzing it, they finally figured out what it was authenticity. Was in the moments of authenticity were off the charts, right? A new octave of being. That's truth. So those moments when we are not in resistance to ourselves, and we have them, right? We have them, just not all the time. Because there's times where you're going to feel self-conscious, right? We all do. You know, when you meet new people, or you're wearing something you don't feel good in, or like whatever it is, you're going to have moments where you feel self-conscious. Or maybe when it's something like when you're sharing something you just made, right? Whatever it is. But there's going to be other moments when you're like dancing in your kitchen and just feeling the groove. You're like, you're you, and you feel great, and you're not in resistance to anything. And that's the moment when you're in the high octave, right? And those moments are apparently might like off the charts, like they're much louder. So those are rippling out. And there may not be that many of them, because how many of us, like you got to do a lot of work to get to that space. You know what I mean? So it's like the light workers are there in moments. And as they emanate those little rumblings, right, they say that is undermining the current reality. Right? That is what is starting to shatter the current reality. Right? Like this to me this is why I say this is like a message we cannot afford to miss, you guys. This is so exciting. So exciting to understand the mechanics of like the energetic mechanics of how this is working, what is really happening. So yeah, we are driving it. We are driving the chaos. It makes sense. It makes perfect sense. So, all right. So then they go on to say, where is it? Beneath the surface of all that is in existence. Okay, next paragraph. It is an underlayment, a thickening quicksand within which that which sinks will be destroyed, and that which rises will be genteeled in a quality of kinship with the truth of who you are now. So, and think about that rippling out, right? That it's like a slow rippling that is going underneath, like an underlayment, they call it. It goes underneath the current reality, and it becomes like a quicksand. and that everything that is destroyed, they say that which sinks, anything that cannot tolerate that high vibration will sink into the quicksand and be destroyed. And then anything that rises into that higher pitch that's compatible with the higher pitch will be genteeled. They say, and to be genteeled is like to be polite, refined, well-mannered, right? It's going to get along with, in other words, it's going to be genteeled. It's going to get along with this higher version of you. So what they're saying is there's some things in our reality that can come with us, that not everything has to change. Phew. Right? Not everything has to change. So, and they've told us this in the past, that there will even be things like in our world, like some big companies will survive, some like structures in our world will survive. Some of them will, but then some won't. And the ones that will are going to be the ones that get along with, that are genteeled, right? That are genteel, that are going to be in alignment with this higher frequency, that don't sink into the quicksand, that is undermining this rippling that's going out and undermining the current reality, right? And they say it will be genteeled and in equality of kinship with the truth of who you are now. So so anything that rises will be genteeled and an equality of kinship with the truth of who you are now. So kinship. So if something is in kinship with you, kinship is like it definitely means like related, like family, but it can also be like a social thing, to be like in a close knit social kinship organization. So it what it refers to, which is interesting, is it almost like defines like family rules and expected behaviors and social hierarchies and things like that. It's like what is the social organization that's taking place? What is the culture? Which is another way for defining like, how are we going to define this reality, right? In something that's going to be in kinship with you, that's going to think about the world in a similar way, that's going to want to bring the same high vibes as you are. That's what's going to survive. All right, next paragraph. So, and then now they shift talking, and now they start talking about their role. The angels specifically start talking about how what they are doing is changing because of this. And this is really interesting. So they say, we orchestrate ourselves to embrace the now, to echo who you are, to allow this reverberation to be amplified through the truth of our own souls. And what we are now has shifted to facilitate your own awakenings of these potentials. We have now stretched our own incarnatings to become the chamber of your own voices, as that which stirs in your soul is awakening and finds the precipitating unfolding begun. So the role of angels has always been like to amplify the ones that are here to help us on our experience of living this life, is they have helped us to experience reality. So in the past, the way that they've explained it to me in the 3D reality is that, so imagine that we are here, we walk into a room and we are vibrating at the vibration that we are at, and we are in alignment with certain experiences because of that vibration. And within that realm, there could be a lot of different types of experiences, some of which will be on our path and some of which are not. So we may, one experience, say for example, that our vibration is in alignment with needing to take a break. And so one of those potentialities is to trip and fall down and break a bone, and that would force us to take a break. But another reality would be like, oh, there's a really nice chair over there, you could go sit down. And so the angels will say, let's take that broken bone one and let's throw that out. Let's not let that come into her reality. But the nice easy chair, that looks pretty good. Let's bring that in, because that's going to keep this person on track. It's going to keep this person focused on the pathway that's leading them towards their best life. So the best use of this life. So in the past, they were, in a way, working with our vibration. We would emanate the vibration, and they would sort of tune it and move it and shift it and work it so they were helping us. Like we always see images of angels like playing instruments, right? They are musicians, and our sound is music, and they're helping us to play our music successfully in this world. But now they're saying that their role is changing. That rather than doing it the way they did before, which makes sense in a karmic world, if we're moving out of a karmic world and into a new experience of being human, what they are doing now, they are saying, and there are angels who have incarnated, that are here on this planet, that are here to do this work. And they're just in light bodies. Most of us can't see them. There are a few people out there who can see angels, and the angels that they're seeing are typically incarnated angels. Very few angels have ever incarnated, but those that are here on earth are here specifically to help us, not only with, and yes, we all have a guardian angel, but there's also other angels who are incarnated angels who are here to help us with reality creation, with all kinds of stuff, and specifically to help us with the shift in consciousness. So we have this part here where they're saying that we orchestrate ourselves to embrace the now, right? To echo who you are, to allow this reverberation to be amplified through the truth of our own souls. So as we reach these frequencies, as we are being really true to who we are, right? Embodying our truth, when we have those special moments of not resisting anything about ourselves, when we're just really at ease with ourselves, in those moments, the angels can step in, and if we're emanating that lovely high vibration, they can grab on to that vibration and amplify it, make it even bigger. So that is how they're helping. So we started, it comes from us, but they can take it and run it through their own souls, and almost like they are taking, like they are musicians, they're taking that song and making it louder, amplifying it, singing it even bigger. They're not changing it. It's like we wrote the song, they're just making it bigger. So they amplify through the truth of their own souls. And what we are now has shifted to facilitate your own awakenings of these potentials. They're doing this on purpose to try to help us bring in the new reality. They say, we have now stretched our own incarnatings to become the chamber of your own voices. So think of what a chamber does. If you sing, have you ever sung in like a closed echoey chamber? It echoes. It makes your voice go again and again and again, and it makes it louder and louder. They have become the chamber, right? They are amplifying your voice as that which stirs in your soul is awakening and finds the precipitating unfolding begun. So saying they're doing this as that which stirs in your soul, which is that higher octave of you, which is trying to come out, which is starting to speak. That's what they're amplifying. Right? Like, wow, it's so cool. And I love to me, this is just, I know we're talking about energy, we're talking about frequencies, but at least we understand. To me, this explains so much. It really, really does. And it helps us to know what we're meant to be doing, which I think is so important. All right, so then they go on, next paragraph. We shall focus now upon what is shared between yourselves, what is begun and is concentrated into the awareness of the many who shall rise into unity and togetherness. We shall amplify that which is shared, which is originating from within the time period of now, which is only just begun. So this is what is it that they're trying to amplify? It is the unity consciousness. It's what is shared between us. So they're not, and they explain this more as we go. So they're specifically like, what is it that's coming up that needs to be amplified? It is the unity piece of it. So they go on to say, next paragraph, we shall search and justify that which shall become the new reality from amongst yourselves. This is our role, our addition, the part we play. So imagine you're emanating all kinds of stuff, but the stuff that they are going to be focusing on is what is going to become the new reality, is what is that higher pitch, that higher octave. And within that higher octave, they are looking for the things that are shared between us, what it is. So this is an interesting reference to a message they gave us, like, I don't know, it was several weeks ago. And I used some pictures in it. If you guys have watched a lot of my videos, they're the ones where I showed the graphics, where they showed the new reality. They had the picture of the old reality, which was like a movie projector and everyone sharing one vision. And the new reality was like where we are all projectors trying to agree upon a reality in the center. And it was this understanding that in the new reality, we are not bound to one concept of reality, that we are much freer as creators in the new reality, and that we may participate in lots of different concepts of what reality can be, but there will be one that is shared by everyone, and that will be sort of the agreed upon world. So we experience this a little bit now. If you can think about, like, for example, if you know someone who's into really different hobbies or pastimes than you are, like say, for example, that you are really into knitting, and like all your friends are into knitting, and one of your close friends is really into cars, and they hang out with all these other people who are really into car collecting, and they go to like car shows, and whereas you are going to like knit nights, and like you have two different realities, like, and there's a little little Venn diagram where there's an overlap where the two of you share space, but then there's this whole other area where there's like not sharing space. So, but the area that you do share space, the part where you come together, where maybe you guys bond over like murder mysteries or whatever it is, like whatever your thing, or maybe you just bond out of just, that you just, whatever, this is a person who's in your family or you've known along, whatever it is, whatever the reason, whatever is in that shared area of overlap. When the angels look across the whole field of humanity and say, okay, what are the pieces that are shared by everyone? Like, where is it that everyone is in agreement? That starts to form like the glue of the new reality. So, and they say, we shall search and justify that which shall become the new reality from amongst yourselves. This is our role, our addition, the part we play. And that is by amplifying those things, right? It is to fortify that which is shared. So they're being very clear. What is it that they're doing? Are they amplifying everything? No. They are specifically looking for the points of agreement in this higher octave that we share with others and trying to pull those together, almost like sewing and stitching, taking a little of this to start to make the beginnings of the new reality. To fortify that which is shared, to amplify that which has begun and which is beginning and which has left behind what is familiar. So in other words, not the old stuff, not looking for commonalities from our old experiences or, hey, we both love that same pizza shop or whatever. None of that. It's only the new stuff that hasn't existed before. So it has to be that which has left behind what is familiar. Okay, next paragraph. We shall stretch across the angels, that is, we shall stretch across the divide between your souls and stretch to renew and embrace those subtle shapes and tissues which just now begin to bridge across the divide of your own separation. So this is such an amazing visual to help us understand how the new reality is being created. And it really is, imagine it is like they're stitching together a bunch of different things, right? Taking a little of this and a little of that, right? They are stretching across the divide between us, right? Between our souls and stretch to renew and embrace those subtle shapes and tissues, which just now begin to bridge across the divide of your own separation. So, and that is the places where we are dropping down our resistance, where we are in a total acceptance of who we are and all that is. And that allows us to express our truth completely. And as we express our truth, they find the commonalities between our truth and someone else's truth, and they connect those together. And that becomes the one new sort of like in the web of reality, becomes a point in the web of the new reality. So, and these we shall fortify, right? These points, these we shall fortify and strum like the strings of an instrument to connect you to one another, right? To amplify the great good tidings of your new tomorrow. What an amazing thought. So they literally connect them and then they amplify them, strum them like an instrument. So amazing. To amplify the great good tidings of your new tomorrow. We shall find those whispers of your own consciousness which have begun to percolate within the shared collective, and we shall unify and amplify togetherhood. So this is a beautiful description from my perspective of how the angels are helping us to bring in the new reality. All right, and I put great big exclamation points next to this next paragraph. This one says, all that you are has begun to sing a song of I amness. I am and I amness, which, and within this shared perception of I am willing to let go and I shall stretch to become who I am, there is a unity focus. So for within separation, there can become a unity field, not like what you have felt before. So this sounds a little confusing. So and we'll break this down, and they talk about it quite a bit because now we're getting into we're getting a layer deeper in the concepts here. And I feel like they explain it really beautifully, but this is a really important part. So how is it that we get from where we are right now, from separation, into unity, and why? Why did we have to go through separation to get to unity? So separation is an aspect of our divine masculine energy. We all are made up of the balance of masculine and feminine. We all have both of those, yin and yang. It's not male or female, it's divine masculine, divine feminine, and we are a blending of both. And divine masculine energy is the energy of separation. It is the energy of pulling mine apart and pulling yours apart And it is also the energy that builds structures, that builds so structures are the pulling together of things to create towers and things like that, right? That's what structures are, is they are sort of the collection and the assembly of things, and whether it be people or buildings or whatever it is the collection assembly. That's masculine energy. And that energy has to come underneath. That once you have the building, then you can fill it with people, right? But you can't put the people in until the building is there. So masculine energy comes first and creates the structures upon which we can put the feminine, which is about unity. So here they are saying that so we had to go through this phase of separation, where we had to become increasingly separated, an over expression of our masculine energy, which led towards increasing concentration of wealth and resources in fewer and fewer hands, right? That's because that's collect and build. That's that masculine energy. But we had to take it to the extreme so that we can now tip over and start to move into the feminine. And all those structures, like some are going to have to sink into the quicksand, but some of them we will need in the new reality. And they will lift up and provide, in a balanced way, lift up and provide the basis upon which we can now build the new reality in a balanced way with the divine feminine that we all embody. So as we are doing this process of saying I am, like who am I, like this is that idea of expressing our truth in separation, right? To say I am not you, you are not me, I am who I am, right? Then we say I, so that's where we start with divine masculine, I am. Then we go through I am willing to let go, and I shall stretch to become who I am. So that willingness to let go of things, that is not divine masculine, that is divine feminine. Divine feminine is in the breath, the inhale, like collect. That's masculine. Now when we get to and that's also, think about the energy that you have to expand to in order to bring all that air in. And then when you're ready to let out, notice how the body relaxes, and that is the divine feminine. So that is that letting go of the air. So we have become the I am, and then we go through the letting go, right? And I shall stretch to become who I am in the blended state of divine masculine, divine feminine blended. There is a unity focus when we get there. So what they're saying here, and I hope that wasn't too like going all over the place, but to kind of wrap it up as clearly as I can, what they are saying in these next paragraphs is that there is, in unity, there is separation. That we are not leaving separation to go to unity. We built separation, and then we're going to keep it, and we're going to put unity around it. So this is another mind blower. So think about this. Think about your body is made up of a gazillion cells. Each of those cells exist in separation, but they are in unity. They're floating in a substance that combines them all, which all then cooperate together to make a body. So it is separation inside of unity. And without that individual cell, which is the structure of the body could not exist. So this is why we started with I am. We started with separation, right? We built that up, and then now we can build unity around the separation. So this is really important to understand. We are not leaving separation to go to unity. We are building unity around separation. Right? Wild, totally helpful to understand. Okay, so here they go. So for within separation, there can become a unity field. Right here it is that there is a unity focus. For within separation, there can become a unity field, not like what you have felt before. So we've never been able to do this before, right? It is a celebration of your kinship with one another within the conceptual framework of self alone. So we start with being self. And that is all about but we can't do it. We can't graduate from separation until we get to the space where we're totally good with self. We have to be in the space where we allow ourselves to be whole, where we love all parts of ourselves, where we allow ourselves to have had all the experiences of our life, where we're not in rejection or resistance to anything about ourselves, who we are, who we've been, what we've said, what has been said to us. We have to forgive and forget and allow and just love ourselves through all of it. Doesn't mean we have to like it. We just have to say it happened. It's true. And I'm still good. I'm still lovable. I'm still me, right? I'm stronger, I'm better, I'm whatever. And I allow that this was all part of my experience. And we have to get to that space where we can find joy in the now with all of that, right? And so within that, once we find that space, it's almost like the walls of the cell around us are complete, right? And before that, it's like we are like a leaky cell. Like we're like bumping into everybody else's cell, and we're not a whole cell anymore. And it's like a foundation. If you don't have your foundation built, you cannot start building up the building. The foundation has to be done. So the separation has to be finished. And the way that we finish it is through this concept of self-love, which means accepting the truth of who we are. Once that is finished, then that is the building block of separation. The separation is complete. We are a whole cell. Our cell wall is finished, and unity can begin to form around us. Okay, so exciting. I find it so exciting to understand this stuff. I really do. So, okay. So it is a celebration of your kinship with one another within the conceptual framework of self alone. Yeah. All right. So then next paragraph. It is as if within your own soul, there is a concentration of your own light that emanates its own qualities to the degree that they can be shared. And within that sharing, there is a unity concept which seeks another that also shares to the same degree. So in other words, when you have gotten to that space of self-love, when you've gotten to that space of completing your own cell, right? Like the membrane around you, where you are whole, where you are feeling like at peace with all that you are and all that is, then it's like you start to generate more light. Like it's just like it makes sense. If there's a hole in the bucket, water flows out. If your bucket has no holes, then more and more and more and more and more collects. And your light, you fill more and more and more with light until finally you're glowing so bright that you move out beyond your own wall lights, right? The walls of your own cell. I'm calling the like your field. I imagine like our energy field is like a cell, just like a cell inside the body. And so once that happens, then that energy of yours, which is now vibrating in perfect balance between masculine and feminine, when you've got to the space of acceptance of self-love, as we're talking about, is acceptance of self, acceptance of everything about you, acceptance of everything you've done, said, experienced, felt, everything. It's acceptance is the key, right? And that doesn't mean that you have to like it. When I say acceptance, I know that's a hard word sometimes because you're like, there's a lot of things I don't want to accept. By accept, I mean we just have to admit that it's true. That's it. That's all we have to do is say, yeah, that happened. It really happened, and it sucked, and it was terrible, and I hated it, and I accept that it's true, and I accept that I love myself through that experience, and I love the world through that experience. I love it anyways, right? That's the key to the self-love piece. That's where we have to get. So it doesn't mean we have to accept it as in like we're going to allow it to continue. We can say no more, but we can say, I love what is. I love myself through that experience. Okay, so then they say, where was I? So, and where was I? I lost my place here. And then, okay, and that within, so there's a unity concept. Okay, so the unity concept, your energy, once you get to that state, your energy is you've filled up yourself. That energy is starting to move outside of you because you've just got so much of it. Oops, sorry, I forgot to turn my phone off. And then it starts to go outwards and to seek other energies that vibrate in the same way that it does, which means other energies that are also in acceptance and that are balanced, right? That are in acceptance of what is, because they have also reached that same level of frequency. So that is where unity begins, right? When like starts to seek out like out in beyond our own self, our energy does. So a unity concept which seeks another that also shares to the same degree, that shares their light, right? That is willing to share their light into the unity field. These two forces, so next paragraph, these two forces of connection share and unify along the ridges of perception, which illuminate one another in a shared reality. Very interesting choice of words there, ridges of perception. So what that says to me is that perception is going to be important here. That it's like the ridges of perception. In other words, that that there's probably going to be a lot of qualities to that energy. There's going to be a lot of things here, but the area that's going to matter most for unity, for this field to be created, is specifically perception. So these two forces of connection share and unify along the ridges of perception, which illuminate one another in a shared reality. So in other words, by perceiving one another, we illuminate one another, right? It is as if through the concentration of your own light, you illuminate another, and that other illuminates yourself. Thus, it is only through the participation, the full orchestration of your truth, which is allowed to shine freely, that you may join the collective. Wow, right? It is only through the orchestration of your truth, which is allowed to shine freely, that you may join the collective. All right, next paragraph. The barriers between one another melt down and surrender, for there can be no need for separation when self is embodying truth. For truth shines directionally all at once. Truth shares itself without reserve. Truth echoes its own voice. The emanation point of truth is invariable. It cannot be allowed to suffer the imposition of another's light. It does, however, receive the perception of divinity which shines from another. So this helps to explain that idea of being separate and being together at the same time, that the idea of the separation inside of the unity. So the barriers between one another melt down and surrender, for there can be no need for separation when the self is embodying truth. For truth shines directionally all at once. Truth shares itself without reserve. So think about this in our world right now, where we are so fixated on privacy. And think about how vulnerable it feels if you are totally exposed, right? Has there ever been a time when you've told a story and then wished maybe you hadn't said it out loud, and then wondered immediately afterwards, what did people think? And we all have those moments. There's moments where you feel like, maybe I shouldn't have said that. And all of a sudden you feel self-conscious. And if you can connect with that feeling of self-consciousness, that is our bleeding edge. That is the edge where we are shirking away from expressing our truth, right? Where we are dimming down, and you can feel that feeling, how it seems. It's almost like if your light was a volume switch, you're turning down your light. You're like, ooh, don't look at me, right? I wish I hadn't said that. And we turn our light down. So truth shares itself without reserve. Truth echoes its own voice, right? So truth shines directionally, means it shines in all directions at once. The barriers between one another melt down and surrender, for there can be no need for separation when self is embodying truth. So we have to get comfortable with this idea of being seen. We have to get comfortable with the idea that whatever you've been through, that if you love it yourself, if we can get to the space where we love it, then we won't feel bad about sharing it. You know, I joke all the time about, like, I've been divorced twice, and I embrace it. And I actually joke around all the time about how worldly I am. I like to make it sound like I've been married lots of times. I have so many marriages. It's only been 2, but I have no shame about that. I don't feel bad about that. I feel actually like I know, like, that has made me who I am today. Those experiences were planned for me before I got here, and they built big parts of my own consciousness. Like, they helped me to, in so many ways. They grew the depth of my compassion. You know, it's been very, very important in my own progression. So this idea that we have to get to the place, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect on that, because there'll be times I'll say things, I'll be like, and I have that, I wish I hadn't said that, or ooh, that felt like I feel very exposed right now, and that happens. And so, but we all have that bleeding edge. We all have that space where we feel like there's something that maybe we're not totally, like, are we really okay with that about ourselves? When we get to the state of consciousness, in the moments, remember, we don't have to be perfect. It's in the moments when we get to the state of consciousness that we're trying to achieve, we will share ourselves without reserve, right? We will echo our own voice. We are so happy with ourselves, we will make it louder, right? And then they say the emanation point of truth is invariable. In other words, Nobody else can speak into your truth. Your truth always comes from you. The emanation point is always here. Like nobody else influences you. Nobody else takes over your voice. It's always your truth, right? That's the state of consciousness we want to achieve, where you're not repeating or parroting or saying what you think your parents wanted you to say or be. It's when you are at the center. This is the state of consciousness we are trying to achieve. They say it cannot be allowed to suffer the imposition of another's light. In other words, if someone is trying to force their light on you, force their opinions on you, it does, however, receive the perception of divinity which shines from another. So this is the point of unity, where their light, they're sharing their light fully, you are sharing your light fully, and what's being shared in the middle is their divinity sees your divinity, right? And that is the unity, right? It's so amazing. It's so amazing. All right. Okay, next paragraph. So they say, it is through the willingness to be seen that unity is begun. And right there is like, I know for so many of us, it's like, oh, darn it. because that is one of the hardest wounds, is the willingness to be seen. Like that was one of my big ones, you guys. Like I know it's hilarious because here I am on YouTube and I'm like out loud and proud, like I channel angels. But I will tell you, there was like, I had huge fear of being seen. And I mean, when I was a little girl and I would play in the front yard and a car came by, I used to hide in the bushes because I felt self-conscious as a little kid. And like, that's how bad it was. Like I was that shy. I was very shy and did not want to be seen. And I had to work through that, obviously. And being like doing this work is part of that journey for me. So anyways, I relate is what I'm trying to say. I really relate to the fear of being seen. And I think it is a really common one. And here it is, like, of course it is, like, this is the thing we have to work through, because we have to get to the place where we allow ourselves to be stared at, allow ourselves to be exposed, right? The things that we are least comfortable with about ourselves, we have to be willing to be exposed. We have to get to the place, and the only way we can get there is if we come to terms with it, if we accept ourselves. That's the reason why it really doesn't matter what other people think of us, or that if other people can see us. All that matters is that we love ourselves, because that's what then allows the bucket to be full so that it overfills and creates the unity field. That's the key. So it really doesn't have anything to do with other. It's always self. It starts with self. So it is through the willingness to be seen that unity is begun. It's just so clear, and it's hard. It's clear and it's hard. Through the growth of trust in one another's soul in kinship. Through the allowing of your own spectacle to be shared open and freely. This is the actioning point upon which you may focus. This is the place your soul must stretch itself for your voice to be heard in its completion. Yeah. So it could not be clearer, you guys. This is our marching orders. We have to get to the place where we love ourselves enough, where we love ourselves as wholly as we possibly can, so that we are willing to be seen. And this part they say here, through the growth of trust in one another's soul and kinship. And they get to this more, this idea of trust. Trust becomes a big theme in this message. Okay. And they say this is the actioning point. So this is what we got to do, right? And upon which we can focus. They never say we have to, that which you may focus. If you want to shift in consciousness, this is what you may do. Right? Yeah. To be, next paragraph, to be allowed to shine, to stretch past the umbrellas of your own protection, to reach into the folds of another's vision, and to demand the place of your own belonging there. Think about those words, you guys. To be seen in the fullness and the rainbow of your own expression, not in the method by which your own expression overtakes, but in the understanding that two may shine simultaneously, and it generates more light to be shared between you. So beautiful things in here to think about is that the first idea here is to this idea, demand the place of your own belonging, right? To be seen. And it's that thing to say, like, do you feel that there is a place in the world for you? Like, do you feel like the world is your oyster? Do you feel like if you decide to do something, the world will make space for you to do it, Or do you feel like doors are closed to you? Do you feel like a person on the sidelines? Or like the world is only going to allow you a little bit of what you want? Right here, when we're getting to that space of self-love, when we say everything that you've ever been, done, said is lovable, that you've been loved through it, right? You allow yourself to shine. It's that idea of filling your own bucket, allowing it to overflow, right? To stretch past the umbrellas of your own protection. That only comes when we embrace the self-love, right? To reach into, once we overflow with our own self-love, we reach into the folds of another's vision and demand the place of our own belonging there. It's sort of like showing up and saying, like, you know, those people who are like the life of the party, and it's like, the party can start, I'm here, you know, like that energy. That's what we all need. We all need that. I think that's like Leo energy. Like, oh, I'm here, party started. Like that's what we need. We need to embrace a little bit of that Leo energy. And they say to be seen in the fullness and the rainbow of your own expression. And then they specify here, not in the method by which your own expression overtakes. So in other words, not in a way that we then overshadow the other person or try to impart, or we don't want to control another person ever. We just are shining. That's all we're doing. We're just being ourselves. So this gets that idea that the angels or the mother of creation specifically told me that persuasion is not my journey, that it is just being. That's the journey, right? The journey is just to be our own light as bright as we possibly can, not into order to influence someone, because basically we can't. They said the idea is that person has to spark their, if we influence them, we're not making space for their light to spark. We have to create like by shining our own light, we can encourage them to shine their own. Right? Not try to push them or make them be like us. It's that idea that just by loving, right? Just by loving ourselves, and that then shines love and creates that sense of, making more love. Okay. So, where was it? So the echoes down here. And so we can't overtake another person's light, but in the understanding that two may shine simultaneously, and it generates more light to be shared between you. Next paragraph, they say, there is a buffering zone between your light and that of another, a place within which your own space is claimed, your own reverence, your own spaciousness, your own truth is allowed, but only. This spaciousness of your own evolution cannot be combined with another's. So this is the separation inside of the unity, right? A buffering zone between your light and another. So it's almost like there's this, that like you're going to be in your own zone, and in this own zone, only your light is allowed. Right? And that is like within the cell membrane of your own field. Like this is a holy, and this is where we get to when we are healed. And that's why, like, if you guys have ever thought about doing my soul convergence program, this is what it focuses on, is helping you to balance your masculine and feminine energy, which is all about self-love. It's healing those early traumas that are really hard for us to get to. Like that's what, and I'm sorry to talk about it right now because it's not open. Like you can't register until like January, but if you thought about it, put it on your calendar. January for you is soul convergence, but that's what it focuses on. So this idea of we need to nurture and complete our own ball of light, right? And then outside of that is where we merge with everyone else, where our light blends with another light, and it's about seeing. We see their light, they see our light, right? It's the perception piece of it, like they highlighted in that other paragraph, is the key. And that because that perception is divinity. The perception it's like bathing in the light of the divine. So, okay, where am I? A buffering, right? We're in the buffering between your own reverence, your own spaciousness, your own truth is allowed, but only your truth is the thing. This spaciousness of your evolution cannot be combined with another's. In the unity field of consciousness, these illuminated bundles of concentrated light fixate upon their own expression, and in so doing, they combine with others who are equally fixated, as if a magnetic pole unifies between you. So this is sort of describing the mechanics of how it works, is that when you are shining your best shine, you are fully like loving yourself and loving your life, you fill your bucket up with light, you're full, and you begin to overflow. That frequency of self-acceptance, self-love goes out into the universe, and it then seeks out, almost magnetically attracts to other vibrations of self-love, which is going to be other people who have also achieved that state of being. So that then those two connect, and that forms the unity field outside of your bubble, all around your bubble. And it's sort of like the glue that holds the structure of the new reality together. So they go on to say, as if a magnetic pole unifies between you. At the border between one another's light, the perception of illumination, the spark of unity is begun. So the perception is key, right? That you perceive theirs, they perceive yours. That's it. That's the magic. As if the connective tissues between one soul's light and another forms the bond of a reality to be shared. Right? So this is how the reality is made in this new state of being that we're going into. This connective tissue is built on trust. Trust is the way shower. The new wave form of reality, trust. It is upon this that all things are predicated. Thus, you may feel within your own field where trust is lacking, where you may have harbored old resentments or disallowances, where you have not yet yielded to the perception of others. So like I almost feel like this is amazing news and bad news at the same time, because like, wouldn't it be nice if they were like, you know what you need to do to get to the new reality? You need to go shopping. Yeah, you got to buy new shoes. That's what you need, is shoes. Be like, yeah, okay, I do that. They're like, no, you have to trust. You're like, shoot. Okay, fine. Like, it's not easy. It is not easy, you guys. So yeah, but they are laying it out clear as day, and it is one of the hardest things for us to do. So this connective tissue is built on trust. Trust is the way shower. So self-love and trust. And that self-love trust piece, they're like almost like the same thing, right? Because the trust, it comes from like when we get to the space of total self-acceptance, and then we feel so great about ourselves, then we're going to feel like, well, of course, it's going to be back to that idea of being the Leo entering the party, being like, the party started, now I'm here. Like, everyone's going to love you because you love you, right? That's the vibration we're trying to achieve. And that is in like a complete trust in the world, in our reality, in our surroundings, that everything's always working out for you. Like, that's the vibration. And you know, you're there once in a while. We all get it sometimes. It's just, can we get it all the time? And think about that. If we're trying to imagine what reality is going to be like if you just imagine that if you're always able to hold the vibration of everything's always working out for me because I'm awesome. Like, that's the vibration. And yeah, if you can hold that, imagine feeling like that all the time. It would be amazing. Amazing, you guys. Okay. So then, and then they name it right here, like, where have you harbored old resentments, disallowances, where have you not yet yielded to the, so what are you hiding? Like, what do you wish other people didn't know about you? Like, those are the places, those are the sore spots that we have to work on. That's where we dip down into the lower frequency. The last paragraph here, they say, there are no forms within your soul that do not bear witness. There are no parts of you that are not hallowed. This reality must come to your own willingness and perception so that unity can begin. We thank you. They just put it at our doorstep, you guys. They literally just put it at our doorstep, and they said, okay, there are no, and then they tell us, like, you know, your worries are baseless. There's nothing inside of us that shouldn't be seen. There's nothing that doesn't bear witness, right? That it all should be witnessed. Everything about you should be witnessed. Everything about you is beautiful. There are no parts of you that are not hallowed, right? That are not divine. This reality must come to your own willingness and perception, right? So that unity can begin. So they're saying that we have to get to the state of being of self-love. We have to accept ourselves. We have to accept the reality. We have to accept what is. We have to accept ourselves. We have to accept Earth in its current state. That's what we have to get to. And if we do that, unity can begin. Yeah, I love this message. I know I say that every week, but I think it just gets better and better. And this one does. This one, I feel like it is so dang clear and not easy, you know? Like, I'm all one for the shoes mission. I want the shoes mission. I don't want the trust mission. Like, I'm pretty trusting. Like, sometimes I'm almost too trusting. Sometimes I think. But see, there it is right there. If I was really in the right state of consciousness all the time, I would never think I was too trusting. I would always think I was the right amount of trusting. So this is a thing. This is a thing for us to work on. You know, anywhere that you feel like, and I like any moment, if you've ever shared something and worried that you shared too much or felt exposed or all those moments, right? Our moments we have to sit with ourselves, go back to that issue, whatever it was, and figure out what is it that you're afraid of? What is it about you that you feel is unlovable? And we have to love ourselves into wholeness. Wow, wow, wow. And it's not all or nothing, you guys. Like they were very, very clear. It's in the moments that we're able to achieve it. But obviously, the more of those moments we string together, the better this process, the faster this process is going to be. So, and you guys are ahead of the game. And they have said we're way ahead of where they thought we were going to be. We're doing great, which means we can do this, right? Every moment counts. Every single moment where you can reach that level of authenticity counts, and it's helping us towards this much, much brighter future for ourselves. All right, you guys, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And by the way, if you have not subscribed, double check and see if you're subscribed. I would appreciate it if you would like the video. And if you want to share, this is one to share, you guys. This is a message to share. Yeah, because I feel like this is an important one. Okay, have a wonderful rest of your week. Sending you tons of love. And I'll see you guys next Friday Live. Bye, you guys.